Welcome back to World Wrestlers History, where legends never fade, and every story reminds us why we fell in love with wrestling. Today, we bring you the incredible story of a man whose name echoes through every arena he ever stepped into. A man who defied the odds, overcame pain, and became one of WWE's most decorated and beloved superstars. This is the story of Adam Edge Copeland, the Rated R superstar. Adam Copeland was born on October 30, 1973, in Orangeville, Ontario, Canada. Raised by a single mother, Judy Copeland, Adam grew up without a father figure. His mother worked multiple jobs just to make ends meet, and from a very young age, Adam understood what struggle meant. But there was one thing that kept him smiling: wrestling. The moment he saw Hulk Hogan on TV, raising the WWE Championship high above his head, something inside him lit up. He knew right then that this was what he wanted to do with his life. He would sit in front of the television for hours, watching legends like Hulk Hogan, Randy Macho Man Savage, Bret Hart, and Ricky Steamboat. He studied their moves, memorized their interviews, and imagined himself walking down that long ramp to the roar of a packed arena. In school, Adam wasn't the biggest or loudest, but he had a dream that burned stronger than anyone else's. And fate was about to introduce him to someone who shared that same passion. His name was Jay Resso, the boy who would later become known as Christian. The two became inseparable. They'd talk wrestling every day, draw imaginary championship belts on paper, and practice moves on old mattresses. Together, they made a promise: one day, they would make it to the WWE. But as they grew older, reality set in. Wrestling schools were expensive, and Adam's mother didn't have the money to pay for training. He worked part-time jobs, unloading trucks, cleaning gyms, doing anything to save a few dollars. Still, it wasn't enough. Just when it seemed impossible, an opportunity came his way. In 1992, a local newspaper announced a wrestling essay contest. The prize? Free wrestling training with Ron Hutchison at Sully's Gym in Toronto. Adam poured his heart into that essay, explaining what wrestling meant to him and why he was destined to be in the ring. Out of hundreds of entries, his essay won. That letter was his golden ticket, the start of everything. Training under Ron Hutchison was brutal. Sully's Gym wasn't glamorous. It was small, hot, and smelled of sweat and determination. There were no spotlights, no cameras, just pure passion. Adam threw himself into training, learning every move, every hold, and every fall. He took bumps on hard mats, sometimes without eating, sometimes without rest. He didn't care. This was his dream, and he was living it. Ron quickly noticed his dedication and talent. Adam wasn't the strongest, but he had something special: heart and psychology. He understood how to make fans care. By 1993, he began wrestling under the name Sexton Hardcastle. He joined the independent circuit, performing for tiny crowds across Canada. He and his partner Joey Legend formed a tag team called Sex and Violence. The name was outrageous, but it got attention. They drove for hours between towns, sometimes sleeping in their car, sometimes getting paid just enough for gas. But every time Adam stepped into the ring, he felt alive. He wrestled anywhere he could: church halls, school gyms, and small arenas. It didn't matter how small the crowd was. To him, every match was a chance to get better. His passion started paying off. Word spread about the Canadian kid with long blonde hair and unmatched charisma. He began getting bookings in the United States, wrestling for promotions like Grand Prix Wrestling and USWA. The grind was hard, but Adam loved it. He was living for the roar of the crowd, no matter how small that crowd was. In 1996, he decided to take his shot at the big time. He sent a demo tape to the WWF, hoping someone would notice. That tape showed his energy, his moves, and the spark that made him stand out. A few months later, he got the call that changed his life: the WWF wanted to sign him. In 1998, Edge made his official debut. He walked through the crowd wearing a black trench coat, long hair flying, eyes filled with mystery. He was different. He didn't speak much, but his presence said everything. Fans were intrigued, and soon, they were cheering for him. WWE soon paired him with his best friend Christian, forming one of the most iconic duos in wrestling history. Along with Gangrel, they became part of the Brood, a dark, vampire-like stable that stood out in the Attitude Era. Their entrance, walking through a ring of fire, was unforgettable. But when the Brood split, Edge and Christian's chemistry took them to new heights. Together, they became Tag Team Gold, literally. From 1999 to 2001, Edge and Christian dominated the tag team division. Their matches against the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys changed wrestling forever. The introduction of the tables, ladders, and chairs matches turned them into legends. At WrestleMania 2000, they participated in a triangle ladder match that blew everyone away. At WrestleMania X7, they did it again, in what many still call the greatest tag team match in history. Edge's mid-air spear on Jeff Hardy from a 20-foot ladder remains one of the most jaw-dropping moments ever seen in WWE. It was the definition of risk it all. But beyond the chaos, they showed incredible comedy and charm. Their backstage skits, goofy 5-second poses, and playful mockery of other wrestlers made them fan favorites. They weren't just athletes, they were entertainers. By the time their tag team run ended, Edge and Christian had won 7 tag team championships, proving themselves as one of the most successful duos in WWE history. Yet Edge wanted more. Deep down, he knew he could shine on his own. In 2001, WWE split the team, and Edge began his singles career. That same year, he won the prestigious King of the Ring tournament, defeating Kurt Angle in the finals. It was a statement. Edge was ready to rise. Soon, he captured the Intercontinental Championship, continuing to climb the ranks. Fans loved his underdog spirit, his high-energy matches, and his passion. He was proving that he wasn't just a tag team guy. He was a future main eventer. However, in early 2003, everything came crashing down. Edge suffered a serious neck injury. Doctors told him he needed spinal fusion surgery, the same kind of operation that had ended other wrestlers' careers. The news was devastating. He was forced to step away from the ring at the very moment he was about to reach the top. He spent over a year recovering, unsure if he'd ever wrestle again. During that time, he questioned everything. Was this the end of his dream? Was his career really over? But Edge wasn't a quitter. He fought through pain, went through countless hours of therapy, and slowly rebuilt his strength. His mother stood by him, reminding him that he'd come too far to give up now. In 2004, Edge finally returned to WWE. When his music hit, the crowd erupted. But he wasn't the same man who had left. The injury had changed him, mentally and physically. He was tougher, more focused, and hungrier than ever. He began feuding with top stars like Randy Orton, Batista, and Triple H. His in-ring style evolved, mixing intensity with intelligence. He became more aggressive, more determined to prove himself. The fans could see the fire in his eyes. He was no longer content with being almost there. He wanted to be the best. In 2005, everything shifted. That year, Edge won the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 21. The concept was new, and Edge was the perfect man to introduce it. With that briefcase, he earned the right to challenge for the world title anytime, anywhere. It was the ultimate opportunity for a man who had spent years scratching and clawing his way to the top. But it also marked the birth of something darker inside him. Edge was no longer the nice guy fighting for respect. He was turning into something more cunning, something ruthless. The rated R superstar was about to be born. His attitude began to change. He became arrogant, manipulative, and obsessed with gold. Fans who once cheered for him now started to boo, but that didn't bother him. He loved it. He fed off it. He began calling himself the rated R superstar, flaunting his defiance and controversy. His on-screen relationship with Lita added to his heat, turning him into one of the most despised figures in WWE. The Edge that fans once loved was gone, replaced by a ruthless version who would stop at nothing to win. He was unpredictable, dangerous, and more entertaining than ever. But this episode isn't about his championship glory yet, it's about how he became the man ready to seize it. Every setback, every injury, every night spent wrestling for a handful of fans in cold arenas led him here. Edge had reinvented himself from a hungry kid into a main event star in the making. The rated R era was knocking on the door, and the world was about to see just how far he was willing to go to become a legend. This was only the beginning. The story of Edge was far from over. His journey from that small-town kid in Orangeville to the brink of WWE superstardom had been full of pain, hard work, and pure heart. He had transformed himself through grit and resilience. But as we'll see in the next chapter, his hunger for greatness would lead him down a path of controversy, chaos, and ultimate triumph. To be continued in Episode 2, the Rated R era begins. Thank you for watching this episode on World Wrestlers History. If you love wrestling stories like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in Episode 2, where Edge turns from a comeback kid into one of WWE's most controversial superstars.